Hello, and thank you for joining me today for Real Estate, Religion, and You. My name is Sylvia Black, and I'm your host. I'm a licensed real estate broker of affordable homes and apartments. Last week we talked about opening the door to a home of your own, part 1, and today we're going to talk part 2 of opening the door to a home of your own. And last week we were talking about traditional credit and alternative credit, and this is where we left off. Also, I want to talk to you about my book, Free Money for Home Buyers, which lists down payment and closing cost assistance, grants, purchase subsidies that are available to you to help you with that down payment and the closing costs so that you can get the keys to your new home. Okay? Now, do you have the money saved up for a down payment? And this is where the Free Money for Home Buyers comes in at. Okay? We're going to talk a little bit about it if we have a chance to today. Now, when you buy a home, you will need money that you have saved for a down payment and what we call closing costs. Okay, the amount of the down payment may vary, but generally you must make a down payment that equals at least somewhere around 3%, 5%, okay, it could be 6%, okay, it could be as much as 20% of the purchase price of the house. For example, if the house is $100,000, and I like to use that number because it's an even number, if you're required to put down 20%, you're going to need $20,000. If you had $20,000, you could buy a house. Okay, you wouldn't need to borrow money to buy a house. If you're required to pay 5% of that of the $100,000, that's $5,000. 6% is $6,000. So all you do, if you have a mortgage for $50,000, you take 5 by 6, $50,000 times 6%. 5 times 6 is 30. That would be $3,000 on a $50,000 mortgage that you would be required to pay if it is 6%. 3% of a $50,000 mortgage is only $1,500. And you'll be able to do that if you knew where to get help from. Now there are federal, state, city agencies, as well as local municipalities that offer down payment and closing cost assistance to first-time home buyers of low to moderate income individuals and families. And also, basically, that's what most of these programs adhere to, low to moderate income individuals and families, because if you are not of low income, then you have the finances that you can purchase a house, and you don't have to worry about getting the money for a down payment because you have that. So these programs talk to low to moderate income individuals and families, okay, who don't have a whole lot of money. So if you're getting a house for $50,000, and there are a lot of houses out there that are lived in. Matter of fact, I just was looking at a listing just the other day, and if you have that, then that's only $1,500 that you're going to need as a down payment. That's 3% of $50,000. Okay, $50,000. That's $1,500 you're going to need to put down. Okay, then closing cost assistance, you can get help for that, and you may even be able to get help with the $1,500. Okay, if you buy a 2-family or 3-family or 4-family, the rent will cover the purchase, the mortgage, and say even some of your own personal expenses. Okay, that's why these programs are so great. You might be struggling today, but you don't have to struggle forever. You can register for my program. Go to AffordableHomesAndApartments.com. You can get a copy of this book at AffordableHomesAndApartments.com also. When you go to my website and you want to register or holler at a sister, go to the section that says first-time home buyers, sign up here. Okay, and I want to thank you for joining me today. My name is Sylvia Black, licensed real estate broker of affordable homes and apartments. Okay, now we talked about closing costs, we talked about down payment. Okay, now in some cases, I always introduce this to my clients as the power of negotiation. Okay, now you do this before we go to the table, the closing table, and even before we go to the bank. Sometimes the seller is willing to hold some or all of the mortgage, and this is called owner financing, and this is considered as alternative credit. Now the seller can possibly report to the credit bureau, and I know this is a lot of information to take in, but don't worry, you can watch my video over and over again if you want, and when you register with the workshop, you'll be given a copy of these books so that you can read them over and over again and have them to refer back to whenever you need to. Now, sometimes a seller is willing to finance a home, which is called owner financing. Okay, and they will say, okay, well, I'll finance the down payment. Okay, in some cases, some owner might say, okay, well, I'll just finance the whole thing. Okay, And this is what we find out, before we run your credit report or anything. Because before we run your credit, the owner might say, hey, I'm willing to finance it. You give me so and so, and I'll do it. We don't even have to go to the bank. In this case, they're acting like the bank. But there's negotiation that can be adhered to. Okay, because in some cases they may not charge the same kind of interest that a bank would charge. Now there's no way that you're going to get around the interest that the bank charges. But if a seller says, yes, I'm willing to finance it, a lot of people don't expect for the seller to really add interest. But if I'm a seller and I'm selling you my house and I'm financing it for you, yes, I want to make money off of your money by financing it for you and charging you an interest. My interest rate might not be as much as what the banks would charge you. I'm not going to make $500,000 off of a $100,000 loan, because then if that was the case, then you can just go to the bank. Then you wouldn't have to come to me. So I'm going to be a little bit more flexible about that. I'm going to be a little bit more lenient, you know what I mean? But I'm still going to check your credit. Still going to see how much money you make. I still want to know if you can afford to pay this money. Okay, because if you can't pay me, you can't pay the bank. Okay, no matter where you live or which type of house you choose, lenders will use some general guidelines to determine if you qualify for a mortgage. And remember, each mortgage company, each bank has their own individual qualifying criteria. So just because one bank may say no, it doesn't mean that all the other banks will say no. Okay? But if they say no, then it's important for us to find out why they said no so we can address that issue before you go to bank number 2. Because if you have too many credit reports run in a short period of time, your credit score can drop like a hot potato, and then you will not be qualified for any kind of loan at all. Okay, now before we begin the house hunting, we're going to want to read this guide. Okay, we're going to get you a copy of this for your own information. It's going to be included in the home buyers kit that we're going to get to you when you register for the workshop. Okay, all you need to do is register and whatnot. Let us know which days are available, and then when we find out a location that we're going to be at, and then we will have you come there and actually register in person. Now, the mortgage lender will want proof that you have saved up funds. Usually this is a copy of your bank account that they're going to want. Okay, they will use a down payment as part or all of the closing costs. If your funds are in the savings account, the lender will ask the financial institution to verify the amount. And you have to sign a document for them, and then they will send that to the bank, because the banks can't just give out your information without your permission. So what it is you'll sign a paper says, I authorize the release of my information to the bank, to this bank, or even to Affordable Homes. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to run the credit report. But the banks are going to want an actual statement from the financial institution. Find out how long the money's been in there. If you just dropped $10,000 in the bank 5 days ago, they're going to know you didn't have no money in there, and the money might not, there may be a different process in that. Okay, now if the funds are in your savings account, the lender will ask the financial institution to verify the amount of the length of time that the funds have been in the account. The lender wants to make sure that you are not borrowing all of the money you will use for the down payment and closing costs. Okay, some communities have programs which I list in my book, Free Money for Home Buyers, which is available on AffordableHomesAndApartments.com. Okay, have programs to help first-time home buyers like yourself with some of these programs. Now, you may be able to accept a gift or a relative from somebody, or borrow a portion of the money that you will need for a down payment and closing costs from an organization that I'll list in here. Okay, or the seller may be flexible and say, hey, I'm willing to finance the down payment, but he has to provide that in writing. Okay, now with others, you may be able to get a grant, okay, or other funds that you will not have to repay and can cover some or all of these costs. I talk about grants in here, first time Free Money for Home Buyers, available on AffordableHomesAndApartments.com. Okay, now if you do not have If you do not now have at least a portion of the money saved, this probably is not a right time for you to try to buy a home. Instead, register for the workshop, and then we will walk you through a lot of the steps and help prepare you. Okay, and then we can help you, show you how you can save up some money. A lot of us don't have discipline in terms of saving. Okay, sometimes you'll notice that if you've ever been out of work, you're probably more economical when you're not getting a paycheck than you are when you are getting a paycheck. Can I get some help up in here? I know it's hard to imagine living life without cable, but yes, you can survive without having cable. without having the internet, okay? You may have to stop eating at that 5-star restaurant every evening, and oh Lord, God forbid now you gotta cook at home. Oh, ooh, you're scaring me, Or you may have to give up, shopping. I mean, I know ladies, we love hair, like I love hair, you know what I mean? But you don't have to buy some new hair every month. You can just wash the hair you got, okay? If it's human hair, it will wash just like regular hair, okay? Can I get some help up in here? So, there's a lot of things that we, don't have to deal with now. You don't have to put up with a lot of these things, okay? We're going to have to learn how to budget and learn how to do without certain things just temporarily. Just until you buy your house, and then you'll have the discipline that you need so that you can maintain that house. Maybe it's a good feeling when you get about your car and you walk into your own house and you can stretch out and relax. You can turn that music up and blast that music as loud as you want to and don't have to worry about no landlords coming at you. On the other hand, if the toilet leaks, then you're going to have to fix it yourself because you don't have no landlord to call. So that's where discipline comes in at, okay? Keep some jewelry in there, some expensive jewelry and some brand new products, so maybe you can hock it if you have to. Okay? Again, some communities have programs for first-time home buyers, which I list in my book. Okay? With some of these programs, you may be able to accept a gift, etc., as I said earlier. Okay? And others, you may be able to grant funds that you do not have to pay back. And there are also provisions for that. Some of them require that you live in the house for a certain amount of time. Usually it's about 10 years is the average. Okay? And then after that you can sell it, or you can move out and still keep it as investment. Now if you do not now have at least a portion of the money saved, this probably is not the right time for you to try to buy a home. Instead, it would be a good idea to open a savings account and begin putting away some funds from every paycheck. As I mentioned earlier about the secured credit card and about the secured bank account. Okay, the longer you have accounts and the longer and the more consistently you have been able to save money, the better you will look to lenders who are ready to apply for a mortgage in the future. Based on the information above, give yourself an A+ if you have money saved up for a down payment and closing costs. Give yourself an A- if you do not have the money saved up. Okay, if you do have the money saved up, we're ready to start shopping for a house. If you don't have the money saved up, then we'll enroll you in our workshop. Either way, you need to get a copy of Free Money for Home Buyers, which is available on AffordableHomesAndApartments.com, y'all. Okay, now can you afford to pay a mortgage each month? If you pay rent each month, you may be prepared to take monthly mortgage payments. You may be prepared, okay? The amount of your monthly payments depends on the amount you borrow, the interest rate, and the repayment period or term. The shorter the term, the higher the monthly payments. Remember I talked about a 15-year mortgage as opposed to a 30-year mortgage? Okay, for that reason, most home buyers repay their mortgage over the longest term possible, usually 30 years. And now I understand that they have 40-year mortgages. Okay, how to calculate your payment? The amount of your mortgage payment will depend on how much you borrow or how much money you have down. Well, yeah, how much you borrow, how much of the house that you need. That would be deducted from your down payment or any money that you would get assisted with in the form of grants. Okay? It will also be determined by the term or the repayment period of the loan and the interest rate that you are charged. If you know how much you need to borrow, which is the purchase price minus your down payment, and what the interest rate will be, you can use the chart that we will talk about on the following page to find out what your monthly payment will be with a standard 30-year fixed mortgage. And note that this chart includes only principal and interest payments, not property taxes and insurance. I believe I talked about that before. That's called escrow. We had a lot of problems with people. They were calling and complaining. We had folks bringing off the hook about people. Okay, they would get a mortgage and then they were told that they were only looking at that smaller amount. They would say, okay, you're going to be paying $299. One lady, she was paying $750 a month. So you're going to be paying $750. This is what your payment is going to be with the principal and interest. That's all she thought about was $750 a month. She went home, started getting her payment, her payment coupons, and the first payment coupon dictated that she had to pay $950. She hit the ceiling. What's all of this about? What's going on? I thought I only had to pay $750. Well, we had to explain it to her. I said, ma'am, would you like to come into our office so we can talk to you about it? Because she was really upset over the phone. She says, where's this other $200 coming from? So what we did was we had her come into the office and we talked to her and we showed her. We said, ma'am, The $750 that you are paying only includes the principal and the interest, the amount of money that you borrowed, and the interest that you're being charged. The balance of the money, which is the property taxes and the insurance, that is considered as escrow. And that is what you have to pay in addition, over and above your mortgage payment. Okay? Now remember, the banks are only going to take first position when they loan you money, which means that if you fall behind in your taxes and or your insurance, your homeowner insurance, God forbid, okay, the bank will then pay it for you. However, you will pay the bank back 2, 3, maybe 4 times what they paid. They will not, the banks will not stand in second position. Okay, in other words, your house will not be taken away for non-payment of taxes if you have a mortgage. If you have a mortgage, that mortgage is going to maintain first position. The city is not going to get your house for paying its taxes if you got a mortgage on it. The mortgage company is going to make sure that taxes and insurances are paid. And that is called escrow. Okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we see each other at the workshop. And just go to my website at affordablehomesandapartments.com and sign up for the workshop. Go to the page where it says first time home buyers, sign up here. Okay, now this is a chart. This is basically just estimated. Okay, now let's see what we can get here. Now, if you have a loan amount of $25,000 and you get an interest rate of 5.5%, okay, you're going to be paying $114 a month. And that's just for the loan and the interest. It does not include your escrow, taxes, and insurance. Okay? If you have a loan, let's go something more realistic of $50,000. And you have a 7.5% interest rate. You're going to be paying $385 a month. That's only going to include, wait a minute, I think that's $55,000. Okay, $50,000 is going to be $350 a month. Okay, and that's only going to be including your principal and your interest, not including your taxes and insurance. Remember, that's escrow. That's over and above what your mortgage payments would be. Okay, remember, the bank is not going to maintain second position. Your house will not be taken away for non-payment of taxes or non-payment of insurance if you have a mortgage. That mortgage company will make sure that those taxes and insurance are paid by having, if they have to, by paying it for you and then charging you double, maybe triple, maybe 4 times as much for the payment that they made on your behalf for your negligence. So keep that in mind, honey, because that's money that you could have went out to dinner with and celebrated buying your new house with. And instead, now you got to pay up to the bank because they paid your taxes for you. Okay, you'll know how much your taxes are going to be before you buy the house. And you'll know how much of property insurance you're going to have because you're going to bring in with you proof of how homeowner insurance. You're the one who is going to buy it. Okay, but there's stipulations in terms of how the actual insurance has to be listed. Okay, now let's just give a couple more examples. If you have a $75,000 mortgage, okay, and your interest is 9.5%, you're going to be paying $631 a month just for the principal and the interest. I can't stress that enough. Okay, now let's look at $100,000. If you have a $100,000 mortgage and your interest is 6.5%, you're going to be paying $632 a month. Okay? If you have a mortgage of $90,000 and your interest is 9%, you're going to be paying $724 a month. Only for principal and interest, not for taxes and insurance. I always say, okay, now you looked at, let's take $100,000. $100,000 at 9.5%, you're going to be paying $841. I always say round it off to 10%. If you have a $100,000 mortgage, round it off to $1,000. That will help cover the cost of your taxes and your insurance. Now, you don't have to pay taxes every month. Okay, but if you calculate the amount of taxes that you will be paying annually or biannually, sometimes you pay 3-4 times a year. Okay, you got county taxes, you got city taxes, you got garbage and sewer taxes, you have school taxes. Okay, you're going to get taxed up the wazoo, baby. Okay, when you're a homeowner. But there's good news about that because you can write some of that off. Okay, and we'll talk more about that too at the workshop. Now, we talked about the chart. Excuse me. Okay, now remember, there are other expenses that will be added to your monthly payment. And these monthly payments includes your taxes and your homeowner insurance. When you come to the closing table, you will be required to provide proof of homeowner insurance. That's not the bank's responsibility. You will have to bring that, which means that you will only have to pay possibly maybe 1 or 2 months, whatever that initial down requirement is. If you're getting a homeowner insurance, you might only have to put about $200 or $300 down. So in this case, as we're preparing you for home ownership, you're gonna have to start making some money liquid. You're gonna have to start, getting some cash out of being held up, and we're gonna have to, not buy so much hair, and nails, and don't worry about. You're not gonna have to. Don't look like no peacock, please. You don't need red hair, purple hair. Okay, if you want it, wait till after you move into your house. Okay, but people won't look at you as hard when you're coming from your own house and getting out your car. If you got to take the bus or something and you got some red hair, some purple hair, some blue hair, that's not necessary, okay? We're going to have to learn how to discipline ourselves, how to stop purchasing stuff. And don't always buy just because the store, the retail organization wants you to buy. One thing that I hate, when I go into the store and I've shopped and I've gotten everything that I need, and right at that counter there, you got all of those goodies. You got my gum, you got my candy, and you got all of this stuff here that I forgot to get when I was in your store. And now I'm spending another $10 on this item. This is right at the cash register. Oh, have you found everything that you're looking for today? You know what I mean? Now these sales agents, they've got a sign that says buy, 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 spend your money, spend your money. You know what I mean? When you walk in the store, you don't have to spend nothing if you're walking in the store. You know what I mean? Just remember, you want to buy something now or you want to own a house? I believe you would rather own your own home, okay? And that home that you buy, it will be your initial investment, okay? Let's say you buy a 2-family or 3-family home. You remember, you're going to get income money from, and that's going to, let me tell you that you won't get gray hairs as fast. You won't be worrying as much. You don't have to worry about it if you lose your job or if your second income that doesn't come in like it used to, or for any other reason that anything happens, God forbid, that you can't pay that mortgage because you're not working, or the money that you were making from the job is not coming in for some reason or another. You got rental income, baby. Somebody's going to be working. You got income coming from your tenants. And if we helped you qualify them like we would do, then we'll know that they're reliable. They're going to pay their rent. Because if they don't pay their rent, they're going to get put out, and then you get somebody else in there that can pay the rent. That's the business. Just like the banks don't loan you money because you're a nice individual or because you're a Christian. They loan you money to make money. So that is the philosophy as a landlord. You have to adapt. It's about business. If you don't pay your rent, I'm not negotiating with you. I'm not going to talk to you. I need you out. And so that I can get somebody in here that's going to pay me my rent so I can pay my bills. Who's going to be out in the street? You or them? Okay? You got to think about that. So we talked about the chart now. Okay, well, we're getting a lot covered today.